guys, this is Roush, CRNA of CRNA Locum Jobs. Wanted to do a quick video to talk to you guys about a question that I get asked a lot from CRNAs. It is, what is a VMS? In short, VMS stands for Vendor Management Software, Vendor Management System, depending on the company, what they might call it. Essentially what it is it's a software that facilities and healthcare institutions use to help streamline the process on their end, both from an accounting standpoint, but also just to keep track of schedules and what all they got working when it comes to outsourced labor. The better question would be is, what is an MSP? MSP and VMS companies, typically those words get used interchangeably, but an MSP stands for Managed Service Provider. What they're doing is not only are they the software piece, which really what a VMS is the software, but they're also managing it. A good analogy to think about is, think about like Airbnb, for example. Airbnb is the software that both property management companies and homeowners use to list their home. So in this aspect, the VMS would be Airbnb itself, the software, and the MSP would actually be the homeowners and or the property managers, because they're actually doing a lot of the management of the actual properties and accounts and everything like that. VMS is the technology platform and an MSP is the service partner that's working with the VMS. And the reason that is important to differentiate is some hospitals identify that they need the software, but they don't necessarily need help with the management piece. So they actually do have just a true VMS, which is just the software and no third-party company that's actually managing it in terms of like account managers, accounting, credentialing specialists, all of that fun stuff. What are the key functions of a VMS? I get asked that a lot. One of the things they do is they have a centralized job posting. So they just have to send that out to one avenue, and then it gets pushed out to all the different agencies, all the different job boards that they want to use. So it's easy for the facility to just do a one-stop shop for their job posting. They don't have to go to Indeed, Gaswork. They don't have to go to their maybe 20 different agencies that they're using and send them the emails. It's all posted on one avenue. The other thing is candidate submission. So when we submit a candidate, it all goes into the software. I've never been on the receiving end of it, so I don't know what those platforms look like once all the providers actually get input, but I imagine it probably streamlines like their experience, their years of service, highlights their licensures in which states and all that fun stuff. Like a very user-friendly version of how to look at a bunch of candidates in a quick way. They deal a lot of the times with credentialing and compliance, so you'll submit all your credentialing documents through that platform. Billing and accounting, we'll submit invoices. That's how we get payment for the CRNAs. They also do, and this is probably one of the biggest things that they do, is they do analytics and reporting. Analytics and reporting is important because a lot of the time the hospital CEO will go to the department that's managing their locums and say, hey, I want to know what we spent on locums last month. Sounds like pretty simple question and should be a simple answer. However, every different agency is on different net payment terms. They all have different contracts on when they get paid and when they submit for the payments. So at any given point, payroll could be months ahead, months behind, etc. In order for that person that got asked by the CEO to come up with an answer, they really don't have a good way. They have to kind of go searching for answers, and then they come back and they say, well, it's about this, I don't know for sure. And the CEO is probably like, well, that sounds pretty unacceptable. We should know how much we're spending on locums cost, and we should have projections for like next 2 to 3 months. And the software can do that for them. So that's a big part of how that works. I also get asked a lot, how do I identify if this is a VMS job or not? To be blunt, you can always ask. If an agency reaches out to you about a job and you're curious about it, just ask them. Is it a VMS job or is it a direct contract? I always disclose that if it's a VMS job when I'm talking to CRNAs, so I would assume that everybody else could do the same. The next thing is kind of one of the telltale signs is when you see multiple agencies posting the same job all around the same time. Typically what's happened is that job posting has went to the VMS, and then it's got dispensed out to all their vendors, and then all the vendors see it and then they post it. So a lot of times if you're getting text messages from say 3 different agencies all at the same time about the same job, it's not completely concrete, but it's a pretty good idea that that might actually be a VMS job. VMS companies There's a bunch of them out there. You've probably heard of some of the names like Locum Smart, Aya, HWL, Ringo, just to name a few, but there's many out there, and it seems like the number is growing all the time actually. The CRNAs also ask like, well, okay, all of that sounds fun. What does that actually mean for me? What should I expect if I am applying for a job that is through a VMS? All communication has to go through the VMS company. The days of us just being able to text the chief CRNA, get an answer on those types of jobs is long gone. So all of our questions, contract issues, things like that has to go through the software. So it's going to take longer to get answers to questions that you may have. It's also going to take longer to get things through the process. Basically, you're adding a second middleman to the equation. Communication can be delayed sometimes. The other thing that a lot of them do, and I'm not speaking about all of them for sure, but a lot of them use what we call a shift confirmation method, which is kind of the opposite of what we've done for all of history in the locums world. Typically, we have a start date, an end date, time off, and then your shifts on contract. Those are the basis of a normal locums contract. Well, a lot of these VMS companies, they kind of do, in my mind, what is the reverse of a 30-day out clause. What they do is they do shift confirmations. So they only confirm your shifts for, like, say, a rolling 30 to 60 days at a time. Now, a lot of CRNAs don't like that. It's not the system that I would prefer either, but unfortunately, it's one of the things that we have to work with if we want to adapt and grow in the system. It's not all bad. I think that in a lot of ways, especially if the facility is good with their scheduling and they're confirming days 60 days out at a time, a lot of that is more like it's a 60-day out than it is a 30-day out in a normal contract. So that can be a benefit if you're somebody that's worrying about, hey, if I get 30 days notice on a contract, then I'm gonna have to hustle to find new work around that time. If you're confirmed for 60 days, those shifts are guaranteed. So the shifts are totally guaranteed in a shift confirmation method, but the shifts do need to be confirmed first. Once they get into it and start working and understand that the shifts get confirmed on a rolling calendar, they're usually fine with it. The other thing is that the pricing might not be as transparent in terms of what the job is listed for, what you get accepted at. For us, the vast majority of all of our jobs, we've already pre-cleared the rates before we even post the job. And that is true of 100% of our direct contracts. With VMS companies, sometimes they use what's called a bidding system. So they don't actually list, like, say, a max rate that we could submit a candidate at, but we could maybe use some context clues and figure out what other agencies maybe have submitted somebody in the past. But we may come in and say, yeah, we think we can get you, say, $250 an hour at that job. Like I said, with all of our direct contracts, we've already done all that legwork up front. We have it confirmed. We know that if we're listing it, that's going to be approved. But on the VMS bidding system, we might think that we might be good at $250 an hour, so we'll submit it, but then they may come back and say it's denied, or this is the max rate we can list at. Final thoughts on VMS companies. The reality is a lot of bigger institutions, universities, and some community hospitals are for sure reaching out to these VMS companies to help find solutions to their accounting software, analytics, and reporting. They've definitely grown a lot in the last 12 to 24 months. So I think it is something that hospitals are looking for, and it's a good sales pitch. If they can come in and say, hey, HR person, representative, are you overwhelmed with dealing with 50 different agencies, not being able to figure out what your spend is each month and what the projection is for next month? I mean, I get it. I think that I would be right there with them if that was my role at the facility. The other thing is that we've been so long into this game of dealing with a traditional locums contract with a start date, end date, time off, preferred shifts, 30-day out clause, that this whole thought process of like shift confirmation methods and these things are new. I don't think that they're going to go away anytime soon. I think they're only going to grow. I think hospitals and facilities are adapting to these models. I think it's more flexible for them, so that's what they're going to roll with. So I think, like I said earlier, I think we just have to learn to adapt and grow into these systems so we can still provide great patient care at the facilities that need us the most. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.